Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are taking our very first look at the brand new campaign ship, the legendary tier Brisbane, aka not the Royal Navy, but the Australian Navy, aka the what do they call this? The word's right on top of my head. I don't know. You guys know the word I'm talking about. It's a territory of the UK. I can't think of their freaking name right off the top of my head. I've had a long day, so I'm just going to get into this. We're running the only commander that I have for this particular ship, and that is Harold B. Farncombe, which is probably the worst possible commander you could have for this ship. And in true wargaming fashion, they once again release a new line, and I'm sorry for my language, but release a new line with no availability in terms of like build quality. So you're stuck. You're just stuck. So once again, you guys are going to get an angry review about stuff because these people at Wargaming can't seem to put two and two together and be like, hey, if we're going to release these ships, like we should probably have a commander that makes the ship, usable. So I did the best I could, and I'll show you guys the videos and leave you guys up to decide whether you want this ship or not. Personally, I think this ship is a terrible idea for any solo player. If you're in a division, fantastic. Especially if you have a division where somebody can provide a smoke screen for you, absolutely fantastic. But other than that, this thing is not particularly fun as a solo player. So with that in mind, let's go over the build. We are running Harold B. Farncombe because, yes, as you can see, there's one commander, so I'm stuck with it. Why is he such a bad commander for this ship? Because 90% of his skills revolve around smokescreens. His base trait is a smokescreen. His second perk is a smokescreen. His third perk, well, I lied, isn't a smokescreen, but you get the idea. Like, half of his skills revolve around smokescreens. I guess you go beyond range, igniter for a little bit of extra HP fire chance, or HE fire chance. I went with Velocious for a little bit of speed. You could go punch through if you're going to use the AP, but if you've got the HE, the AP, for what it is, can be useful, especially against lightly armored targets, as we'll showcase in one of the video clips. But other than that, like against battleships, it struggles as you do in the Mino. The Mino, you have to really like build for the AP because it's all you got, right? So you try to buff the AP as best you can. You have the option for HE in this ship, so why not use it? On alert, minus 3% rudder shift rather than obviously the smoke on the water because we don't have smoke screen. And then fixated, you could run this, but honestly the dispersion isn't really that bad in this ship, so I don't think you need to. Having the ability to know when people are shooting at you is pretty nice, and a little bit faster rudder shift because the rudder shift for what this ship is pretty bad. So we'll go over that in a moment. I am running fully packed rather than refill station because you get a whopping 0.2 to your reload with refill station because I don't have the commander all the way upgraded, right? So unfortunately, that's what we're stuck with. Obviously, if you had this thing maxed out, you get 0.3, 0.4, but still, the reload, not particularly amazing on this ship either, and we'll go over that in a minute. I am running Gunichi Makawa and Jersey Swirsky. Why? Because concealment is your friend. All right, you want to get this thing sneaky. You want to be able to maneuver around the map and do things without constantly being spotted, unless, of course, you're firing your guns and you're able to dodge or stay behind an island, that sort of thing. But no, most of the time, you want to be able to use the ship kind of like a large destroyer or a destroyer hunter, though I highly don't recommend you do what everybody I've seen do in these ships so far, which is just run straight ahead, radar the first person that spots you, and get half your health taken away in 30 seconds. All right, don't do that. These things are nasty DPM monsters. Yes, they can fill the role of hunting destroyers, but that should not be your primary focus, because if you do that, you're probably just going to get yeeted 30 seconds into the match because you'll be the first thing anybody spots. The guns are fantastic, but again, you're literally skylining yourself essentially. You're like, hey, here I am, squishy ship, please blap me, and you have no get out of jail free card. It's not a Mino. And how often we see Minos get dev struck? It is literally a Mino without smoke. That's what this is, but worse in like literally every way. Anyway, I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, and people will be like, well, Spartan, you just don't understand how to play cruisers. Well, we'll see about that when you guys see the videos. Anyway, we are running the AA Guns mod 2 in case we get put up against cruiser or a carrier. You could go aiming systems here, but honestly, I don't think you need to. Again, the grouping and stuff on this isn't too bad, and buffing your secondaries is kind of a joke. It doesn't buff your AA or anything. That's what this module does. You could go with this, but honestly, the guns rotate fast enough as is, so I haven't had any issues with it. So I went with AA. I feel like that was the best possible use of the first slot. For the second slot, of course, we went steering gears because you gotta try to buff the steering of this thing. The steering on this thing is horrendous for a small, completely exposed cruiser that's going to get yeeted with a slow rudder ship. I'm telling you, man, this ship, everybody's hyping this thing up to be like the greatest thing since sliced bread. If you are a solo player, you are going to struggle in this ship. Most people, I'd say 90% of the people that take this ship out as a solo player will struggle with this ship, and we'll go over why in a little bit. Then, of course, third slot, we're running concealment mod again, trying to get the concealment as low as possible, and then in the fourth slot, we have the reload mod, trying to get as much DPM out of this thing as we can possibly get, and then for every 30,000, we get a little bit more DPM. Reduces the traverse speed, but again, guns traverse so fast on this thing, it's really not a problem. So I don't mind it at all. But for the loadout, the good news is you could swap out your sonar for defensive AA, which I don't know why you would, because you don't encounter that many carriers, and you have amazing AA on this thing, so you don't really need defensive AA. So sonar is going to be more useful more often than not. And then, of course, radar. Just keep in mind that these are weird for me. Like, I ended up... You'll see it in a minute when we get into one of the videos, but you'll see it where I literally end up in a match where I'm trying to get a radar to spot a battleship on the backside of an island. I'm like, why the heck am I not spotting this guy? I was running my sonar. Turns out with a 4.9 kilometer ship detection on the sonar, you can't really spot a battleship that's 9 kilometers away behind an island. Who'd have thunk it? That's what this is for. Radar, pretty good, 10 kilometer maximum range with a 22-second duration, 111-second reload time. You get 3 of them with a fully packed build. We are running the Epic Battle Booster for a little bit of extra speed, a little faster cooldown on the consumables, and then main battery range because you need a little bit of range. You don't need a lot because once you get out beyond like 15, 16 kilometers, landing shells consistently, even on battleships, large battleships, becomes a little bit more tedious. Okay. Italian Unity, though, we're running that just solely because if you squint just right, kind of looks like a Spartan flag. And then Hololive. Hololive camo because, honestly, it was the best looking camo I saw on this particular ship, and I can't think of any other ship that I would want to run this camo on. So, there you go. It's not bad. Kind of reminds me of the CC camo, but, like, bright blue. Who knows? Let me know what you guys think when we look at it. But the specs. Survivability is 43,300 hit points with a 13% torpedo damage reduction, which honestly is a joke. There should be no torpedo damage reduction. We'll go over why in a minute. Main battery is 152 millimeter 50 caliber Mark 26s. Those are the exact same guns that you have on the Mino. You get 10 of them, and they fire out to 17.5 kilometers. Reload time is terrible for this compared to the Mino. Mino has like a 2.5 second reload. This thing has 4.4 second reload. Now, because of one of the... oh, wait. I don't know if we took the perk that gives us fast reload as we lose hit points. That would actually be a good idea, too, potentially. Just a thought. HE shells, you do have that over the Mino, which is nice. 2,150 maximum damage, which is pretty much a joke because you're not really going to do anything in terms of damage to most ships that you shoot at with the HE. It's solely for the fires. The base fire chance on this thing is 9%. We got it up to 12% because we took the igniter skill. AP shell, maximum damage 3,200. So pretty tiny, but it's what you'd expect out of 152 millimeter guns. They're only 6-inch guns. Same as sort of like Worcester and all that. I didn't check to see what the damage is versus some of the others, but it should be roughly the same. One thing we could look at real quick is the shell damage for the Mino. Now, obviously, Mino may have some buffs to the AP, but Yeah, it's basically the same. It's 20 AP damage more than the Brisbane. So I would say that this probably has the exact same armor piercing as the Mino. Just remember, when we run the Mino, we also run Francesco Membelli for a little bit faster reload. We also run, I got Charles Madden on there for some more reload as well. But I thought we used to run Von Essen, but I think this has better pin angles than the rest of the light cruisers for the British. I could be wrong. But yeah, anyway, Von Essen is something you might consider because it gives you better pin angles. Just a thought. Just throwing inspirations out there in case you don't want to run like a full stealth build like we are. Back to the stats. Anyway, so we talked about the artillery. It has 0 secondaries. So there you go. There is literally no secondaries on the ship, which is kind of funny. Torpedo launchers, 533 millimeter PR Mark IIs. You get 20 of them in 4 quad launchers on either, or 2 quad launchers on either side of the ship. And they have a range of 13.5 kilometers and a torpedo speed of 65 knots. So not the fastest torps, but not slow, and they have really decent range. Torpedo detectability is not the greatest, but it's slightly, I'd say it's probably average. It's 1.3 kilometers. So it's pretty average for torpedoes, I think. And then for the AA, like I said, this thing's ridiculous. 40 millimeter Bofor Mark 7s. You get 6 of those doing 52 damage per second, reaching out to 4.2 kilometers. That's your close-in support, right? Like your close-in AA is 4.2 kilometers. That's insane. 76.2 millimeter 70 caliber Mark 6s. You get 16 of those doing 315 damage per second, reaching out to 6 kilometers. This is why Minos and stuff rip AA or rip the planes out of the sky. Like you get anywhere near a Mino, you just lose your planes. 152 millimeter 50 caliber Mark 26 dual purpose main guns. You get 16, or nope, I lied, 10 of those. 10 of those doing 118 damage per second, reaching out to 7.2 kilometers. Remember, we did buff the range a little bit with our AA slot in slot 1. Maneuverability, we've got it up to 35.8 with this this build. Turning circle is not particularly amazing, 750 meters, and an 8-second rudder shift. Now that's with running steering gears and a perk on our commander that makes our rudder shift a little bit better. The rudder shift on this thing is terrible. So going double rudder may not be your worst idea. As much as I hate the thought of it, for people trading a concealment mod for a second rudder, honestly, for this thing, it might be worth it because, let's be honest, how often are you going to get away with rushing a cap, radaring, and killing a destroyer at the beginning of a match, and then survive to be useful for the rest of the game? You're probably not. So more often than not, you're probably going to want to open water gunboat this thing. Most people will. So making this thing more agile, maybe not the best, or maybe not the worst thing you could do with the ship. Because most of the time, if you're going to make use of the DPM, you're going to want to be a little bit more agile than what you currently have. So that's another thing that maybe you throw out there. I know everybody's talking about the stealth radar capabilities. We're getting there. Calm down. Concealment. With this build, we are running a 9.9 kilometer detectability by sea. That can get a little bit better than that if you have all your commanders and stuff maxed out, which we don't. But 9.9 kilometers is still a stealth radar. What does that mean? What is a stealth radar? Stealth radar means the moment you get detected and you can't see anybody, you hit the radar because there's a destroyer inside your radar ability. Okay? So, in other words, you can use your detection to gauge when to use your radar to make your radar that much more effective instead of just guessing when somebody's in your range. Make sense? That's what a stealth radar build is. Okay, so that's why we went with that, but as you'll see in the 2 matches that I played, it literally made no difference in the 2 games that I've played in this ship. Do I think this is a bad ship? Absolutely not. I'm just pointing out the fact that, the average player in a solo scenario probably not going to be your favorite ship in the world. Statistics, as you'll see, we have a 0% win rate in this ship. We have had terrible teams tonight. That is not a reflection on the ship as much as it is a reflection on the teams. So please don't, take that as a one and done. Plus, very small sample size for the ship. 2 battles played, 2 defeats, right? 39% main gun accuracy kind of shows that the guns are pretty accurate despite just constantly crapping out rounds, right? Like, we're spraying everywhere. Of course, average battle results, we're averaging 111,000 damage per game in 2 games. Again, take it with a grain of salt. We're not actually playing a lot of games in this ship because I, again, play solo, and ships like this are real difficult when you're playing solo because you gotta rely on teammates to be useful, and let's be honest, good luck. Let's go into the armor and explain why this thing, just like the Mino, is a problem. So, armor-wise, you have no armor, okay? Just like the Mino, you get overmatched by anything that can overmatch 16 mil. 16 mil can be overmatched. Let me do the math real quick. 16 times 14.3 is 228 mils. So basically anything battleship caliber and above, or the British heavy cruisers with a 234, or like Atlantico secondaries, they all overmatch this ship's 16 millimeters, and it is 16 millimeters everywhere. But I know what you're thinking. But Spartan, it's not 16 millimeters everywhere. I see that you have a belt. Look at that belt. It's a huge belt. That takes up a huge chunk of the side of your ship. Surely you can angle that and do some work in terms of denying people damage. Well, just like the Mino, let's show you why that is not the case and why this ship should not have any torpedo reduction. There should be 0 torp reduction in the ship because it doesn't have any torpedo protection. None. And why is that a bad thing? Because it means you have an exposed citadel. That thing you think is your belt is actually your citadel. It is completely exposed. It goes all the way to the outside of the ship. So you get touched. If you are not perfectly angled, it's gonna sting. Okay? Keep that in mind. But the good news is, it is decent armor that isn't overmatchable necessarily. So if you angle it correctly, you can do well. I mean, it's 101 millimeters thick, so angling properly is okay. The biggest issue with that thought is look at the raised citadel right in the center of the ship. What did we say about the armor everywhere else, guys? What did we say? It's 16 millimeters, right? 16 everywhere. Why is that a problem? Because literally everything with 228 millimeter guns and above overmatches 16 mil. Why is that a problem? Well, if we take away the armor, because that's what happens when somebody shoots you with overmatch capability, you can see that even if you try angling, any shell that lands in that 16 millimeter section is a citadel. Every one of them. It doesn't matter. Does not matter. With that raised chunk in the middle especially, you are pretty much guaranteed to be citadeled if you try to take a round off the belt. Alright? Just like Mino. If you're spotted and you're being shot at, dodge. Get the crap away from whatever's shooting you, because you cannot take the risk of hitting those shells. Can you absolutely block some rounds? Sure. But more often than not, if you try to angle or deflect battleship caliber guns, you're going to be sent back to port in a hurry. Overview. Area denial torpedoes. You have an average number of available torpedo tubes, or above average, sorry, number of torpedo tubes. Hidden, very good concealment. We already talked about that. Greater heel. It does have a heel. I don't know if the heel is as good as the Mino. I don't think it is, but it's decent. It'll get you out of too much trouble. And you do get 3 of them with a fully packed build. So it's not the worst. Okay. It's a decent heel, but you're going to need it because you're going to be struggling. Brisbane. After World War II, the Royal Australian Navy may have acquired 1 or more Design Z cruisers to replace and reinforce their navy. These cruisers, from the planned 1947 Minotaur class light cruisers, are designed with automatic 6-inch guns that can engage both surface and air targets. She was designed in 1947. It says may have acquired 1 or more Design Z cruisers, so we don't know. We don't know. We just, I guess. But overall, it's a Mino. It's a relatively modern-looking cruiser, but again, like most British things, it sticks way too high above the waterline, and just like the Mino, that citadel that you can see sticking out is absolutely abysmal when you get shot at by anything that overmatches 16 millimeter. So, other than that, there's not much to talk about in terms of the looks of the ship. If you like it, if you like a Mino, you like this thing in terms of that. But the Mino gets the get out of jail free cards. Those of you who have been running a radar Mino stealth build, you're going to love this ship probably because it gets the added utility of having HE. The HE doesn't pen much, but it does start fires, so you got that going for you. But other than that, let's get to the gameplay. Alright, so the first match we're going to show is going to be on Greece. And this is going to be a perfect demonstration, along with the second match, of why this thing is just not particularly great for the average solo player. Now again, I make no claim to be an amazing light cruiser player. There are plenty of people out there if you want to check out other players that post videos on cruisers and stuff all the time. Ron is a big one out there. So if you guys, I used to say Chili Games, but I don't think he posts anymore, unfortunately. So those are the people that I would look for cruiser gameplay on average. Hivehound is another one I know that likes to play a lot of cruisers. But yeah, anyway, back to where we're at. So why is this thing so hard to do well with a solo player? And the simple fact is you have to rely on teammates to do things like spotting, things like capturing bases, because these things are so fragile that if you do get looked at, you're probably going to go back to port faster than you would like. And again, that goes right back to the fact that this thing just doesn't get out of the way. So instead of going for a full stealth build, as much as I hate to say this, speaking of, there's another another cruiser player out there named Seven Hipper. He's kind of controversial, but he has one build that he specializes in, which is the agility build, and I'm sure he'll throw an agility build on this so you can see what that kind of looks like. Probably, I would have to guess. I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but just seems like something he would probably end up doing. But we are going to go over to the right side. We've got probably one of the worst maps for this ship in Greece. Like, it's a small map. There's 2 destroyers. Unfortunately, none of the destroyers end up on our side, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it. A lot of battleships here, so we're going to go put ourselves behind an island and utilize island cover and then start fire spamming these battleships, right? That's our whole goal in life, is to burn things to the ground. That is the reason that you would go with this over the Mino, right? This thing has HE. It has the ability to set fires and set lots of fires. So what we're going to do is utilize this island. It's not the best island in the world to utilize for spamming, but notice I'm not firing my guns yet. Why? Because that is a lot of angry battleships with gigantic guns that would love nothing more than to shoot at a Minotaur or a Brisbane. Okay? So let's not take that chance until we're in a position where we will disappear pretty quickly. So you'll see right before we go behind this island, we take a couple of shots, try to get a fire on the Ohio. Unfortunately, our small end is already dead because, of course, he is. Fortunately, they managed to at least trade destroyers, so they lost a destroyer, we lost a destroyer. You'll see that we're going to try to utilize the island cover here. Musashi's in range. We're looking pretty good here, but look at my teammates. Is anybody in a position to really help me? Nope. We got a battleship who's the only thing anybody can shoot at, so they're all focusing him. So he's turning and burning. I can't really blame him because, I mean, I've been there. I know what it's like to be focused by everybody in the lobby. But our destroyer still hasn't decided to join in and play. Hasn't done anything. We are 3 minutes into the match. Still hasn't moved, right? So, of course, we back up behind the island. The battleship isn't firing his guns. They're not firing at him unless, okay, now they've got him spotted or shooting at something. So every time these guys fire the guns, I get a few seconds to actually shoot back at them. And that's the unfortunate side of the ship. But, again, it relies so heavily on teammates. Yes, you can absolutely hope that you spawn directly across from a destroyer and you can run straight ahead, radar the destroyer when you get spotted, maybe kill the destroyer before you get sent back to port by the battleship that spawns right across from you. Maybe, question mark, but the downside is, like, you gotta rely on your teammates, and we all know what that's like. Like, every one of us do. Like, we all know how useful teammates are. Now watch. Destroyer is finally in the game. We're 4 minutes in. He's finally moving forward. He's doing things, right? So what does he do? He pulls up, he dumps his torps, and hides behind the same island that I am. Then goes all the way out to the outside edge. There's nothing here except battleships. Why is he doing what he's doing? Simple. I've got 16 kilometers of torpedo range, so I'm going to use 16 kilometers to torp from, right? That's the thought process. Instead of just going into the ACAP, capturing the base early, he just goes behind the island, spends an extra 2 minutes being as useless as possible. And again, I'm not naming and shaming. I'm not trying to point out that but this is the problem with these ships. Like, you need teammates to actually be useful for these ships to really shine. You do. Simply, you do. These ships do not have that carry potential unless you are a god tier player. And that, we all know, I am not. So, we're just taking what we can get, right? Like, there's not a whole lot. But in the short amount of hits that we've got, we've averaged a fire every 10 shells that have hit, which is pretty good. That's staying right there about average for our fire chance. We've got a 12% chance to set fires. We've got 6 fires with 61 hits. It's exactly where you should be, right? Essentially. But as you can see, we're just going to keep doing what we got to do, right? You got to do what you got to do. You got choices to make, right? As the team starts to throw their health away, we're going to have to make some pretty bad choices. Now, this is what I'm talking about at range. We're getting close to the extent of our firing range, and you can see we're struggling a little bit with hitting targets consistently. Once you get somebody sighted in, yeah, you can land pretty well, but those initial salvos are wasted, right? And here you can see Musashi is coming forward, and I'm kind of salivating a little bit because he's in a much better position for me to spam. So I'm like, okay, we should be getting them. But notice all of the shatters, guys. This is the problem with AG spam at these higher tiers. We don't penetrate their armor, right, with our AG. So we're not doing any damage 99% of the time with our HE, unless, of course, it hits the superstructure, which is one of the few places on a ship that is very limited armor. So you can see I do swap back over to AP to just kind of test it out. This is the first game I ever played in this ship, so I was being pretty passive. I was trying to, like, get some shots in, test APs, test AG, and then in a moment we'll test out the agility and find out just why I can't stand them. But this Musashi is also going to demonstrate a point. Now remember, this Musashi is inside our radar range. Watch what I do next. Knowing that one of their destroyers is dead, the other one's in the middle or not been spotted, he's not in our cap or anything, I decide to use one of my 3 radars to spot the battleship on the backside of the island. So I move forward a little bit, still have the island for cover for now, and I hit the button for, not radar, sonar. And I'm sitting here going, why isn't this guy lighting up? Why isn't this guy lighting up, guys? It's because it's a sonar, dum-dum. You can't spot him from this far away with a sonar. Maybe if he was 4.6 or whatever it is, 4.8 kilometers away. But no. We end up spotting him with our face, which is not ideal. But the good news is he's in an area that he really can't get out of. Like, he's pushed forward, he's extended himself into an area that makes him a very easy target. Obviously, we're being targeted, so it's time to turn and burn. It's not the guy that's right in front of us getting ready to shoot us. In fact, it's the guy that's in the Ohio on our left, or the Awami, one or the other, that are going to be taking shots at us. And you can see incoming rounds. These ones are the Musashis. He lands a couple of inconsequential overpins, and then as we turn a little bit further away, he starts getting full penetrations, which is definitely not ideal. But because he makes that turn out, we no longer need to fire at him. We got the torpedoes, beautiful. So we're just trying to go dark here. Ohio takes another shot at us, so we go ahead and start shooting him again. We are spotted by the plane, so we might as well go ahead and shoot it, right? We've got an island between us, so I'm just going to try to get as many fires as I can. We're at 9 for the game. We're up to 75,000 damage. Again, game is lost. There's nothing I can do that's going to swing this game in our favor, most likely. Unless everybody on the other side is complete goofball. Because they have the cap advantage. I'm in a very squishy ship. There's very little carry potential in a game like this for this ship. Because if you try to make something happen, you're probably just going to put yourself in a situation to get yeeted. But either way, we're going to keep shooting at this Ohio, trying to get those fires over the island. He takes a shot at us. We turn in, trying to dodge. He does get a couple of full penetrations. Not that big a deal. Got pretty lucky, honestly, that he didn't citadel us there as we were turning in. I can only assume that the shells landed a little bit high. But as he tries to get as close to the island as possible, you can see the firing arcs of these things is ridiculous, right? As you know from the Mino. So you can pretty much lob Mount Everest and land shells cleanly. Now this is the part where, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of should have been paying attention to this Iwami a little bit more. And you can see I do like kind of look away from the Ohio. I'm like, okay, Ohio's probably dead here. Iwami is salivating. He's got his guns already loaded, so I mistimed his ability to reload, and bonk. There goes all our health. That's what you're talking about. So yeah, can't be taking those kinds of hits in this ship. We got lucky. Again, it's got a good heal, but as you can see, those full pins, you don't have a lot of hit points to begin with, so those full pins add up. And of course, the heals don't come back particularly quickly. This isn't an Ohio-class battleship, so unfortunately, before we get our chance to get our heal back, we end up taking a couple of more hits here, and we're going to go down. We do have torps in the water, and we're trying to get the torps off of the other side of the ship, question mark. And he ends up, we're also trying to dodge the island in front of us by using the mini-map. And he ends up finishing us off. But we're just going to go ahead and jump ahead to the end of the lobby here. We get a torp hit on the Iwami. It's a perma-flood for the moment, but unfortunately, he's going to get that flood put out pretty quickly. And then I think we hit the Ohio on the other side of the map, which is hilarious. Maybe it's not the Ohio. Maybe it was the Yama or something. I forget what was out there. But we hit something else out there with another torpedo to give us a total of 130,000 damage. I think the ship is capable of a lot more than that. The DPM is crazy good. It's not quite as good as the DPM on the Mino, but if you get a teammate that can help you, then by God, you can have a lot of fun in these ships. Now in this one, this is going to be another showcase of using this thing a little bit differently. This is a no destroyer lobby. All right, so what you're going to see is me using my Brisbane as a destroyer, right? Like, you don't always have to shoot your guns, guys. And in a lot of situations, you're better off not shooting your guns in this thing. So utilize the concealment, get into positions, try to help your team win. And you guys will see exactly why I say the same thing that I've said every single time. Now here, I am anticipating a cruiser spawning across from me. There are 4 of them in the lobby. So we go ahead, we drop out all those single file, just like the British. This thing actually gets tube by tube launching, which is nice. But we are going to put ourselves, after we figure out what's up against us, you'll see pretty quickly that it's three battleships and no cruiser. But once I realize that there's no cruiser, these guys aren't going to push into the cap, right? Like, it's very unlikely that these guys throw themselves into the cap. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and start capturing the base. There's no reason not to. And this is what I say about trying to do what you can. It's not always glamorous. You're not getting a ton of damage in these kind of matches, but you're doing what you need to do to try to win the game for your team. But again, back to what we've said multiple times, you still rely on your teammates to be useful. And unfortunately, just like the previous match, that is just not the case in this particular lobby. So you can see I'm kind of jumping back and forth between tube by tube and not tube by tube launching. I kind of go for the home runs here, but I also like making sure that I put the torps kind of where I want to. If you throw them out in a spread, then they kind of get away from one another, whereas this way you can keep the torps kind of going side by side a lot better. It takes longer to launch them. It ends up getting you in trouble sometimes, and you miss a lot more than you hit, but when you do hit, you get those big hits. Now here, this Yama was actually scaring the crap out of me, because this Yama's coming my way. Why is that scary? Well, notice that nobody went into the B cap. Nobody. What does that tell you? Well, if we know that no cruiser was spotted on our side and only 2 cruisers are spotted on the far side, then that means there's likely 2 cruisers that spawned at Bravo, and neither of them went into the cap. You can see one of them just got spotted at Charlie, which means the other one is coming my way. Just process of elimination, right? Like, we're ready to run away if we have to, but we want to get the cap first. So you'll see in a moment that in a moment we do actually get spotted by a special guest in this one, none other than Tactic Angel, another great commander out there. So as you can see, we get spotted. He's got a little bit better concealment than us, but because we're running stealth radar, we know that once we're spotted, we can absolutely spot him back. So we go ahead, fire a shot back at him. He hit us, we hit him. Fair trade both directions, but unfortunately, he's got 3 angry battleships ready to shoot back at me. So we have to do our best to get the crap out of the way. And that's when the unfortunate side of things happen. Now, we know that enemies are shooting at us. You can see the Gross Occur first takes a shot in our general direction. Fortunately, he completely whiffs. The Yama manages to hit us, and we run into our teammate, which is highly unfortunate when you're in a ship that's going to get yeeted. Okay, we're fine. We did take an extra 2,300 damage there from an HE shell. But we can at least unpucker for the moment. We're going to head towards the Bravo cap. If the cruisers have run away from that cap, which we already know they have, then that leaves that cap open for us. And because we're running sonar, I don't know if this was us picking this up or if the GK started running his sonar. But either way, the sonar was running. He doesn't end up taking any torpedoes. So we're in a pretty good spot here. Now, as we move over into the Bravo cap, we need to pay attention. We know that the Brisbane is on this left side. What would I do if I was the Brisbane in this situation? Would I sit behind the island, let the battleship spot for me, do some DPM damage? Or would I, knowing that the cruiser player that was already here and captured the base is likely moving on to Bravo, move forward and try to capture the A cap, right? You can do the same thing that I did, where you just kind of move forward, try to get into the edge of the cap, and use your concealment to capture the base like a large destroyer. Unfortunately for Mr. Tactic Angel, that's exactly what he does. And you'll see why I say unfortunately real soon, because we've got people in position to help spot him, and it's not me that spots him initially. But you can see we take a couple of parting shots on the Yama. I'm heading away, right? So as far as Tactic is concerned, like, he should have no problem moving into position. But I'm spotted by the guy in the right side of the cap, or Charlie cap over there, which ends up being a Napoli. So I end up beaching myself on the island here, which allows me to reverse and put myself in the perfect position to have armor piercing ready as we go ahead and switch ammo types for Mr. Tactic Angel, who has done the unthinkable, which is beaching full broadside in a ship with an exposed citadel. So we go ahead and we throw all of the AP out there, and it wasn't just us. The guy next to us in the cruiser also threw all the AP out, and between the two of us, we send him back to port faster than he can realize that he shouldn't have made that poof. But we also hit some torpedoes on our way out. So again, this is all part of trying to do everything I can in this ship to put my team in the best possible chance of winning. But, as you guys saw, this is not going to work out for our team. Not even a little bit. Unfortunately, our battleship captains are just incapable of living and just get sent back to port. The right side of the map has completely collapsed. They went up against 3 cruisers and a single battleship, and they managed to just completely collapse. Our left flank is getting beat up by 4 battleships. And between all 4 of those people that are on that flank, they are not going to be able to do a whole heck of a lot towards winning this match. So you can see, I'm trying. I'm like, okay, we're going to grab this cap, try to put ourselves in a good position to, you know, keep a points lead if we can, despite losing ships. So if our teammates can at least hold on a little bit, maybe we can pull this off. But you can see Brisbane gets sent back to port immediately. Why he decides to pull out in front of a Yama, a Conqueror, a Gross Occur first, and another Yama is beyond me. Again, not a necessary evil to do. He could have played that differently, but unfortunately he goes down, the battleship goes down. That leaves 2 battleships left on that flank, and one of them has full health in his Yama for all of the next, I don't know, 10 seconds. There goes a chunk through the bow, not too bad. Here comes another chunk, and there goes all of his hit points. Why? Because look at the battleship that's right next to him. We know it's a Yama. We know that Yama has no hit points, right? And our guy is just sailing over-angled / broadside to another Yama. What do you think is going to happen in that scenario, guys? It's really not rocket science to play a Yamato. It really isn't. But you can't just sit broadside to everybody, especially other Yamatos or any other battleship at close range. You can see we do manage to grab the second cap. That's a solo cap for our team. We are going to try to get a parting shot on the Napoli here, using the island to keep us from getting spotted. Our battleship is running away from that side, but he has no hit points left. Our other battleships that are over here are on their way out the door. As you can see, that Yama has lost all of his hit points. Shocker. The enemy Yama sitting behind the island over there is full health. The enemy Conqueror is still full health. The GK has been beat up a little bit, but still pretty healthy as well. And it comes down to trying to carry the match in a DPM Firestarter / armor-piercing cruiser with long-range torpedoes that you gotta pray to God everybody's a moron to hit, right? First shot on the Yama, we get a fire. We start looking at the GK, who's low on hit points. So we go ahead and start looking at that. We are detected by the enemy battleship behind us, as well as the guys in front of us. So we know that there are going to be shells incoming, so we've got to be on guard. Wait for the spotted thing to go red, saying that there are shells incoming, and then we can turn and start to dodge, right? That is what you can utilize this for. We do take a couple of penetrations, but overall it's not too bad. We get some fires on the GK. We're getting ready to get behind the island. We're still going to be spotted by the enemy Napoli as he's coming this direction, and Napoli does overmatch us, don't forget. So we've got to be careful there. So here you can see I'm going to try to go dark and get ready to come around the corner. Now there are shells incoming, as you can see, and I don't know where they're coming from. Well, they're coming from this Yama, who has nothing better to shoot at than the squishy little cruiser. So fortunately for us, they're just not the best shots in the world, and those shells get a couple of penetrations, and that's about it. Now, we know these guys are likely to push forward. It's just me and another battleship, so we just start throwing these torpedoes out here, right? Just give them all the torpedoes and hope for the best. That's about as good as you can ask for. Now, we're completely dark. We don't have to get shot at here. You can see I am considering shooting at the GK here, so we're going to go ahead and load up the armor piercing. He's over-angled. He's practically broadside. We're going to aim high up on the side of the ship. Should only need a couple of shells here to go through and finish off this GK. All we got to do is hit the superstructure. You can see beautifully aimed shot. We get 6 full penetrations, and unfortunately not enough to finish him off before our GK reaches all the way across the map to yoink that kill. So, is what it is. Napoli is trying to shoot us. These battleships are all trying to shoot us, which is great because I'm a smaller target than our battleship, and I need his big guns in the game for as long as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and beach. I am angled here as best I can. It's a Conqueror, and the Conqueror actually citadels us with AG. That is highly unfortunate, but there's that big heal that we talked about. Not quite as good a heal as the Mino, or at least it doesn't seem to be, but still a pretty solid heal that allows you to heal a lot of damage back from those that you end up taking. Now here I am radaring the Napoli, hoping that I can try to set up some sort of miracle play here. I do torpedo the Grosser first, not able to finish him off, unfortunately. They are still shooting in my general direction, and the Napoli is closing in. What did we say about the Napoli? Napoli actually has overmatchable capabilities on us, which means ain't enough angling in the world unless he shoots exactly my citadel at the right angle. If he hits anywhere else, he overmatches and will likely citadel us. So I'm going to try to get him to shoot the citadel, or shoot the belt citadel, and try to go through the side of his ship, and we end up shattering on his belt. He sends us almost back to port with one first shot, and then we're sent back to port by the Yoshino from across the map. So again, it's an unfortunate game. We played our hearts out, tried to do everything in our power to give the team the win. 92,000 damage, top of the leaderboard, 1,400 base XP, and a loss. But you just got to have some teammates, man. That's the end game. You got to have somebody on your team capable of helping you out. Yeah, there were a couple of people that ended up putting up over 1,000 XP, but there were a lot of goofy plays there towards the end that could have saved some hit points and potential DPM that maybe, just maybe, could have turned this fight around. But that's my thoughts on the Brisbane. Again, I think the ship is fine. It's a decent ship, but as a solo player, most people are probably going to struggle with it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.